This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Good evening, everyone. It was the most anticipated big-ticket item of the state government's pre-election budget, an injection into the state's ailing health system, alongside a promise to keep the books in balance, today delivering a $54 million surplus. Our state political reporter, Jacqueline Robson, has been looking over the figures. Good evening, Jack. Just what was the government's big health fix?
Well, Joe, following months of criticism from health groups around the state, we were always prepared to see a boost to health in the budget. The Treasurer says today that has been delivered in the form of $650 million in the budget and the forward estimates. And Joe, it's not just the South's embattled Royal Hobart Hospital that's in line for improvements. Let's have a look at the carve-up. It's the Liberal government's pre-election budget, with health deemed the big winner of 3 years of hard work to bring the state's finances back under control.
The first budget that we began with, we needed to stem the bleeding. This budget's about building Tasmania's future.
The health injection, $650 million, more than 106 beds, including the 50 announced in March, expected to be delivered around the state within 12 months. For the South, 59 beds, with 10 to be delivered in the Royal Hobart Hospital's emergency department. The North will see the Launceston General Hospital's Ward 4D remain open, alongside an extra 4 beds. The North West Regional Hospital will open 8 beds as the government also commits $35 million for a revamp of the Mersey Hospital's medical wards. To staff the beds, an extra 350 medical practitioners will join the workforce over the forward estimates. More than 30 in the Northwest, 85 for the North, and the South rising by an extra 230.
We'll begin advertising immediately for staff and opening those beds once staff are available.
Despite those loosened purse strings, the Treasurer has kept the books in balance. A $54 million surplus thanks to hot property sales and land values, while GST receipts rose by $88 million. Projected surpluses across the forward estimates hanging on the certainty of generous shares of the GST pie into the future.
We've been there, done that, and we'll do it again every day of the week and fight off any suggested change to the GST.
Cost of living measures, with a $100 million spend to stem power price increases, while $60 million will go to local government as the state pushes on with its Taswater takeover. The plan also moving to cap price rises.
We've ensured that there'll be no upward pressure on rates. We've ensured that councils receive what they've been promised, and importantly, as a result of the takeover, prices will be lower and we'll get the job done quicker.
The education spend continues school infrastructure rollouts and capital assistance for non-government schools. Smaller winners in a new $9 million medical and rescue helicopter and $11 million for tourism marketing. But the opposition parties aren't buying the government's proclaimed health fix. A strategic pre-election shot in the arm not enough to heal the wounds made in 2014.
It's simply not good enough for this minister to claim that this is a health budget that's going to fix the crisis that we've got in our hospitals. It's not true. Patients will continue to endure extraordinary waits in our emergency departments.
This is a typical pre-election budget put forward by the Liberals. In health, for example, we're only beginning to repair the damage that was caused by $210 million in cuts in the first Hodgman budget.
Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
There's been mixed reaction to the Liberals' fourth state budget, with unions frustrated that key sectors appear to be overlooked in favour of good news announcements. The business and tourism sectors are applauding the Treasurer's investments, but nurses believe extra health funds won't come soon enough.
The Health Minister claims the budget is just what the doctor ordered, but health professionals say the investment will do little to help this winter.
At the moment, in the short term at the Royal, we're still going to be really pushed. There's no doubt about that. This is not going to be an answer.
Ms Ellis says while many beds aren't exactly new, they will help attract staff in the future.
Effectively, they have been open. But look, the benefit is that these will now be staffed permanently with nursing staff, which is a bonus because we're really struggling to attract nurses to Tasmania at the moment.
Jobs, again, a key part of Peter Gutwin's fourth budget, with a major focus on youth employment.
The opportunities for employers to actually be incentivised to actually take on people to work is a really refreshing change.
We think this is a budget for the people. We think it's a budget for those Tasmanians who have been missing out and doing it hard.
Tascos adding it would have loved to have seen more investment in affordable housing, to child protection services, and the Treasurer says $45 million will be injected into the sector over the next 4 years.
The Treasurer led us to believe that this was the budget where he brought home the bacon, where he sorted out the budget bottom line and then reinvested in services. Well, I can't see that in here. There's some money for health and there's some money for education, but the rest of the services have been cast aside. The tourism industry also happy with its share. Funds to help build a new Cradle Mountain Visitor Centre increased to $21 million. Infrastructure will also get an $8 million boost, and $11 million has been promised over the forward estimates for tourism marketing and to improve access to the Appalau.
This is supporting new airline services, going after new markets like South Australia, South East Queensland, and hopefully an international flight to New Zealand.
Monika Dadson, Southern Cross News.
Well, joining me now live with his first interview since the budget announcement today is the Treasurer, Peter Gutwin. Good evening, Treasurer, and welcome.
Joe, good evening.
It seems you have pleased most sectors with today's budget, a massive investment, of course, we're hearing about into health. Do you think this is going to be enough to solve the crisis that the government's been dealing with on a daily basis?
Look, I've never accepted that we've had a crisis in the first place. We've always invested in health year on year. But what this will do is ensure that we give health a boost of record levels, $658 million worth of new spending over the next 4 years. We'll employ hundreds of more nurses, doctors and allied health staff as well. And importantly, 106 beds will be opened across the state.
Treasurer, we're heading into winter. Can we assume this is going to happen quickly? I think one of the major concerns is that this is, down the track, not now.
We're going to begin advertising immediately. And as staff come on board, we'll begin opening beds. The money's there, it's in the budget. All we need to do is attract the staff.
OK, well, the unions are saying that the money you're putting back into health is basically just what you stripped out of the sector in 2014. Would it be a fair analysis to say you're just getting things back on track? We're not really advancing in health?
Oh, look, this is a massive boost to health spending. Let's be clear about that. And no matter what I did, the unions would always say that it was never enough. This money will be an injection into health that's going to ensure that right across the state we've got beds open, we've got new staff, and importantly we can provide for Tasmanians the health service that they deserve.
Well, you've certainly delivered the expected surplus, the $54 million. Could we assume this is going to be used perhaps for some big ticket announcements in the lead up to the state election?
Well, we've balanced the budget across the forward estimates and we've provided a sensible level of surpluses, around $50 million a year. Obviously last year we had to face bushfires and floods and other challenges, and there'll always be things in the future that we need to ensure that we've got some capacity for. This budget provides a sensible level of capacity over the forward estimates.
OK, finally, Treasurer, we suspect there's a certain sense of déjà vu for you, this being your fourth budget, certainly with the process anyway. So what makes this budget stand out for you, and how does it stand out for us as Tasmanians?
Well, this is a budget to build Tasmania's future. This is a budget that has record spending into health, into education, a significant infrastructure spend. It's good for young people that are looking for work. And importantly, we've balanced the books and Tasmanians can have confidence that they have a responsible government that's prepared to ensure that they invest to build Tasmania's future.
Treasurer, we thank you very much for your time tonight.
Joe, thanks very much.
Peter Gutwin joining us there live from our newsroom about the state budget today. Coroner's report has determined the drowning death of Launceston man Ben Plowright in 2015 was accidental. The 20-year-old was last seen alive leaving a party in Arthur Street in Perth before entering the South Esk River. The coroner finding intoxication and darkness contributed to the accident. Mr Plowright was missing for 3 months before his body was found by 2 kayakers 1 kilometre away from where he was last seen. No further recommendations have been made to police. Euthanasia advocates say they're devastated after another attempt to legalise the practice was defeated in the lower house overnight. Despite being the third bill rejected in 10 years, there are already signs the legislation will be put up again in the near future.
More disappointment for assisted dying advocates. The latest proposal to offer lethal drugs to adults with a major and irreversible medical condition has been voted down.
It's young people can get very upset, very depressed, and they can make wrong decisions very easily. And in this case, in this bill, that can be done in isolation by only talking to the doctor.
Also voted down a plan to send the bill to a special committee for further scrutiny. It would have looked at the wording of the bill, in particular leeway for people without a terminal illness to access lethal drugs.
I have shed tears, I'm not afraid to say that.
Lara Giddings wants the legislation taken to legal experts to provide a study into euthanasia laws overseas and suggestions on how to introduce the laws here.
Now, though, I'm looking at concentrating on my anger and making sure that I use that constructively to make sure that this debate does not go away.
But those who do say this vote should spell case closed. The Christian lobby says state-sanctioned suicide is bad for society.
There's no legislation that's going to cover all the different scenarios, and elder abuse is a real issue in our community.
Brown says true compassion is providing support through pain.
We'll always keep on fighting to value life, and particularly those in the community who are vulnerable and weak, we will always stand up for. That's what we do.
Despite voting against the bill, Will Hodgman says he wants to be part of the debate going forward. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
If you consider yourself a beer lover, then this next story might be for you. A Tasmanian farmer is pushing the brewing boundaries, producing a beer that doubles as a dessert.
A one-man show fuelled by an Aussie obsession. The agricultural scientist turned beer brewer says when it comes to finding the right flavour, there should be no limits. And his latest creation is proving just that.
What we've gone and put into it is some local cocoa bean dark chocolate, some cacao nibs and also some candied mint. And what you get is essentially an after-dinner mint chocolate stout.
The dessert beer, one of several flavours, featured by 9 brewers from across the state at the Melbourne-hosted Gabs Festival.
The Tas Beer Trail will have a presence there. We'll get in front of the best part of 20,000 people over the weekend, and that'll represent the Tasmanian brewing industry.
With 1,200 litres of the after-dinner mint creation waiting to be consumed, Will is confident it will happen.
Guys that love chocolate and mint are chafing at the bit for it.
Arguably, the challenge in making a beer like this would be in finding the right balance, so here goes. Not bad. Has anyone said it's a crime to mix those two flavours?
No, not yet. So I'll treat that as a positive.
180 flavours will be on tap this weekend in Sydney, alongside the world's best, including America and the UK.
Most breweries around Australia will get the opportunity to present one of those beers, and you'll find everything from a fairy floss beer to a barrel-aged sour.
And hopefully there's nothing sour about the response. Jessie Gilmore, Southern Cross News.
Well, they are the athletes who go through pain to entertain. Wrestlers who put their bodies on the line for the admiration of a fiercely loyal fan base. Tonight, we speak to the Tasmanians brave enough to enter the ring and find out why they do it.
This is Lucas Williams, a software developer by day who turns into the purple-wearing human wrecking machine named Cyrus Burns when he enters the ring.
He enjoys picking people up, throwing them all around the ring and generally being a little bit brutal.
His opponent is young gun Jackson Parker, real name Baden. Self-styled, flamboyant and 17 years of age.
I've been a fan of it for as long as I can remember, and I've thought, oh, yeah, that looks easy. It's not.
But there's something about this hard-hitting, raw rush of adrenaline which lures people in. A symphony of skill and showmanship performed in front of passionate crowds. Promoter Lee Barber says wrestling is an outlet for people looking for purpose.
I've had kids come to me who've never even watched wrestling before, but seen how theatrical it is and seen how it's keeping them fit and healthy, and they've turned into success stories.
Despite the physicality, Barber promotes his product as family-friendly, where fans scream for their favourites and performers tap into the crowd's emotions.
If you're being a bad guy, they're booing you, and you look up there and you're like, you, and you pick on someone up in the back of the crowd, and hopefully they give it back as well.
Are you a good guy or a bad guy?
At the moment, a bit of a good guy.
Although the action is scripted, the pain is very real. The mat below me only has a little bit of give, and these ropes are made of steel cable. So it takes a lot of hard work and dedication to get this title around your waist.
A lot more than what this reporter can claim.
As much as people will say it's fake or whatever, occasionally you get a bit excited and they connect.
A world rightly reserved for the toughest Tasmanians. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
If you're experiencing ongoing chronic back pain, you're not alone, according to the Tasmanian branch of the Chiropractors Association. The group says more than 80,000 Tasmanians are suffering from its debilitating effects, but it's often treatable. Chiropractors today taking their message to keep moving and improve posture to Parliament House.
It's a huge economic burden that really is overlooked. It accounts for about 3.5% of all economic burden on for all injuries or all health complaints in Australia at the moment.
Dr Dent says nationally 1 in 6 people are affected by back problems. Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news with thanks to TasPlan, your local super fund. The share market has closed higher as gains by miners and energy producers more than offset falls by retailers. The ASX 200 index has risen by 20.6 points. Short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 75 US cents and 66.75 euro cents.
Jeremy Weberley says a win at home against ladder leaders North Launceston will be a huge boost for his squad heading into the bye. But the Clarence coach admits the Bombers will be hard to beat with a potent forward line and ball magnets lurking all over the ground.
Coming off a win on the road, the Roos coach is keen to notch up another at home after a shock loss to Hobart City a fortnight ago. Defeating North Lonnie, always a big ask, with multiple scoring options and a coach in Tom Couch who dominates possession wherever he plays.
He's obviously an extremely good player and probably starting to hit form at the last couple of weeks. So he's a big body, he's extremely clean, so we need to make sure that we try and limit his influence around the scrimmages and then obviously stopping marking it forward as well.
Weberley admits his squad is limping to the bye with Matthew Ling and Shane Bradford the latest additions to the injury list. For North Launceston, they'll be keen to improve their kicking when they travel south after last week's wayward 7 goals, 22 behinds in awkward conditions at UTAS Stadium.
It's just about bringing the pressure and really going down there to play because it's a big day. You get on the bus early and you got to make sure that you're switched on because they're gonna come out to play definitely.
Meanwhile, Lauderdale coach Darren Winter says his side won't underestimate an undermanned Burnie languishing near the bottom of the table. The Dockers left to rue what might have been with a plan to draft in retired big man Justin Laycock for the weekend, scuttled by his current SFL club.
That's probably handy that he's not playing, but it's always hard to step back up into the to the elite competition when you've been out for a while. So. How much difference he would have made, I'm not sure, but he certainly would have given them a lot of experience.
Andrew McCarthy, Southern Cross News.
The Kingston Blues remain quietly confident ahead of this week's Tasmanian Netball League clash against the Northern Hawks. The Blues returned to the winner's circle last week with a hard-fought win over Devon, 47-32. But after toppling Cripps in round 7 before last week's bye, the Hawks come into Saturday's match refreshed and ready to swoop on valuable points.
Have had a few disruptions this first half with people being away and a few injuries and things like that. But we're feeling pretty confident about how we're travelling, and mentally we're much more confident than we were last year.
In the weekend's other games, Devon take on Karana, Cripps meet the Cavs, and Burnie will take on OHA.
Good evening. Cloudy conditions about the state today with showers about the west and north. Hobart and Burnie reached a top of 16. It was 14 in Launceston and 15 in Devonport. Friendly Beaches hit the state's high of 18 degrees. It was 17 at St Helens, Grove and Bushy Park, 15 at Low Head and Maria Island, 14 at Strawn and 10 degrees at Lyowini. Here we can see cloud increasing over the state with a frontal cloud band approaching the Bight. Another area of mid and high level cloud south of Western Australia is associated with another front. And here's a closer look at the cloud cover, and we can see organised lines of convective cloud approaching from the northeast. Tomorrow, a front will cross Tasmania during the day, with another front developing to the southwest of Western Australia. A ridge of high pressure will continue to cover much of the mainland. Northwest to southwesterly winds 15 to 25 knots, swells building 4 to 5 metres in the west and south. And there's a strong wind warning for southern and western coastal waters from Tasman Island to Sandy Cape. A partly cloudy day expected for Hobart, looking at a top of 15. A possible light shower for Huonville, 14. Campania, 15. Launceston, mostly sunny, 15 degrees. And a partly cloudy 15 for both Devonport and Georgetown. Burnie, 15. Becoming cloudy. Strawn, 13. Wynyard, 15. Sunny and 15 for St Helens and Swansea. Port Arthur, 14. Looking ahead to Saturday now, showers about the north and west with afternoon rain extending statewide in the evening. Some possible late thunderstorms in the northwest also. Sunday we can expect rain easing to showers early, then mostly contracting to the west and south in the afternoon. Snowfalls lowering to 800 metres. Showers about the west and far south on Monday, increasing in the west and extending to the north later in the day. Snowfalls to around 800 metres in the morning and early afternoon. A morning shower or two for Perth tomorrow, but it's looking fine elsewhere on the mainland. Brisbane a top of 24, Sydney 20 degrees and 17 for Melbourne. Now let's take a look at the current conditions around the state. Currently in Hobart, 14 degrees with showers, Launceston 13, showers, Devonport 14 and showers. A bit wet all around. Thanks, Joe.
Does look that way. I can hear the rain on the roof. Thanks so much for that, Britt. That's all from the news team for now. We will, of course, see you throughout the evening with updates. Thanks for joining us. Have a lovely evening.